Gurnoor, thank you so much for inviting us down to the Sheraton Mall of Emirates.
It's my pleasure. Glad to have you here.
I'd love for people listening and watching we like starting with where you started with hospitality. Maybe some people start with their first role ever into the wonderful world of hospitality, which we call it, or why they got inspired to join hospitality, and then lead us up to today as your current position.
Sure. I think it's been quite an eventful journey for me because I started my career actually in finance, in non-hospitality. And I obviously did my studies in business management, marketing and finance, and had a very a passionate approach towards pursuing finance as my career. And then I did that for a couple of years and I accidentally ended up in a hotel in a pre-opening job in finance department. And I remember doing that for a couple of months and thinking, like, this is not what I want to do, right? I mean, I want to go back to my financial accounting, analysis, financial modeling. And back in the days when I was in college working for the Big Fours, it still is a very big deal. And it used to be a very big deal for a college student to work for a KPMG or a Deloitte. So I wanted to go back to that world and say I want to be a consultant. And at that point, I was actually offered an option to stay back in hospitality in a very interesting role called an operations analyst. Analyst is not usually a position hotels hire people for. But they said, listen, you're good with numbers, you're passionate. I was driven, but I wasn't feeling challenged for the role that I was doing. And that's when I entered Starwood Hotels in the head office in India. And that office was looking after 6 countries for South Asia operations. And I started with like 12 or 13 hotels back then operating. I did that role for about 5-6 years. By the time I left for Middle East in 2015, there was about 60 to 65 operating hotels and another 50 in the pipeline. So I was really, really lucky and blessed to have that opportunity to be part of that growth trajectory and open so many hotels, convert so many hotels across the board, right? We used to have hotels which are select, premium, luxury, resort, city, first-tier city, second-tier city. It was really the biggest learning for me in hospitality to understand different brands, different teams, different general managers, different owners, different cities. I mean, India is quite a big country. So just traveling within India means traveling between the whole continent. So I got very, very good exposure, learning before I moved to Middle East in 2015. And I took up the role of, back in the days, it was called Operational Innovation, which I'm a Six Sigma black belt by qualification as well, which means I don't do karate, which means I'm a project manager. And we look at projects that are good for business excellence, for cost efficiencies, revenue generation, productivity, all kinds of nice fancy things, right? So I took that role over in Middle East and I did that for a couple of years between Dubai and Bahrain as well, before I embarked my journey of becoming a general manager. So if you look at it, my career journey in hospitality has been hardcore finance, analyst, operations, regional operations, pre-opening, new builds, transitions, pre-opening, conversions, coming to business excellence. It was more of a consultant role where I would walk into a hotel, look at processes and profit and loss statements and say, here's where you can do better, which is pretty much what a consultant does. Yeah. And then embarked on the journey of becoming a leader, to lead hotels with amazing teams and obviously be the captain of the ship. So that's been quite an interesting journey for me in hospitality.
This is one of the reasons I just absolutely love hospitality, because you can come from so many different starting points to lead into general manager. Now, the traditional route is usually F&B. I don't want to generalize, but you worked as a chef, you worked as a restaurant manager, and you worked your way up or at the front desk. What do you think the benefits of the route you took to being a general manager, and what like different perspective do you feel you have as a leader now versus the more traditional route?
So I think one of the things that a general manager means is a generalist, right? You're not a specialist. When you work in departments such as food and beverage or rooms or sales or finance, every department, you definitely have access to that department, but may not give you access to another department and what's going on. And to become a general manager, you need an access to every department and you need to understand what's going on across the board. I think with my career journey, I was very privileged to get that experience. Whether it was my corporate office experience with Starwood, opening so many hotels on ground with GMs and HODs, and dealing with owner relations, which gave me really exposure to questions, queries, challenges, or it was my role as an operational innovation Six Sigma Black Belt professional, where I was doing projects across departments. I could do a project in housekeeping for one hotel and do engineering in another hotel and then food and beverage in the third hotel. And that obviously gave me access to data, to processes, to teams. As part of our job, we would be on the floors observing the processes. So we saw the ground reality, and not that, okay, somebody told me this is the process and that's it. I would be the one following the process by step, which I don't think anybody could get access to these information, right? So now when I lead hotels as a general manager, I do have a fair idea what happens on a grassroots level, which I don't think I would have had if I just knew one department completely. I would have made efforts to learn the other departments, obviously, but I think this came really handy. And it was for me plug and play. When I became a GM, I knew engineering, F&B, housekeeping, everything, right? And I came from finance background anyway. So for me, then it was for sure you can continue to learn. The journey doesn't end. It's not that you know everything. But you have a fair idea. I think let's put it that way, right? Which definitely gives you a head start compared to somebody who needs to get the fair idea.
Yeah. Now listen, it's super interesting angle. You said being a general manager is like being a generalist. You've got the operations side, the execution side, you've got guests, but you've got a big team. And you're now at the top leading. And I think like leaders usually lead by example. How do you approach and the responsibility of being a leader to so many people?
I think leadership is a very personal trait to me. There is no one definition of leadership because leadership is a reflection of your personality. Everybody is a leader. The way they become leaders is the way they are, right? And it obviously has a reflection on that. But not only is it your reflection of your personality, it is also a reflection of the personality of people you're managing. So leadership, who you manage, you need to adapt leadership for that person's ability to thrive better, right? So one of the things that I approach for leadership is I make an effort to understand the person I'm managing, what gets the best out of that person, what kind of leadership style works for that person. And that's one of the first questions actually I ask the leadership team that I hire in the team in their probation days, like, how would you like to be managed? How often do you want to see me? How often do you want me to check on you with something? Because some people want the me time, FaceTime, email, follow-up. Some people don't. And I think the intention of a leader is to get the best out of the team. So if the best out of the team is leave me alone, then so be it. And if the best out of the team is no, I need more of your time, or I need a little bit more guidance, or we should meet each other to share feedback, then so be it, right? Yeah. So I think this is how I approach leadership, because I've of course managed people from all over the world, thanks to Dubai, which is the melting pot of cultures. We've got people of different nationalities, different age groups, different backgrounds, right? So when I manage them, that's my first question, like, how do you want to be managed, right? And of course, that's where the journey of my leadership starts, with that individual. Okay. And it's different to another individual.
Amazing. You're also a female leader, and there aren't a huge percentage of female leaders in the hotel industry. I think it's something that everyone in the Middle East has talked about and is definitely trying to improve.
For me, personally, I was very blessed never to have any challenges in my career because I was a woman. And I think why I would say that is because I did not perceive myself as a woman to start my career. I perceived myself as a professional. And for me, what mattered was, what do I want to achieve out of my career? What matters to me? What am I passionate about? How do I want to be challenged on my roles? And I think people perceive you as how you perceive yourself. If you are conscious, oh, I'm a female leader, I'm a male leader, I think people are also conscious.
But let's talk about, like, as you're also a mother. As far as I know, men can't have babies. So you
Not
have
yet.
to, not yet. You have to leave the workplace to be a mum. Like, and it's like probably the most amazing thing you can do in life. Yeah. And like, I'm in awe of it. But that does mean you're away from the work environment for a number of months, perhaps.
Sure, I think motherhood definitely is a very big milestone for any female, right? Any woman, it's a very big milestone, which brings a lot of changes personally, professionally, physically. It could be really, it can take a toll on anybody, right? But we women are also a bit harsher on ourselves as parents than men. I think just because men don't produce babies, they equally love their children. But when they go to work, the guilt is a bit lesser than a female, right? And I think it's not somebody else telling you you should be guilty about your child. It's I telling myself, oh, I haven't seen my son all day. I don't know if he's okay. And what kind of mother am I? And, I didn't go to pick him up from school and my nanny goes. And so I think it's something that's self-inflicted. And it's natural. I think we women do care a lot and we do take things to our heart. We can't change that about ourselves. But I think a good start would be to be conscious about it. To say we are a bit harsher and we do expect everything from ourselves. And it's okay if I did not go to pick him up today. It's okay. I think it starts with that, because I will never get to a point where I can be completely okay with it, because obviously the mother guilt trip is a constant factor which will never go. But I guess you can start by being conscious of it and say, listen, it's all right. I can't do everything. And it's okay if I can't do everything. I think that's where I started, because when I had my baby, I was already a general manager. And it was my first time GM role when I was pregnant with my first child. So for me, it was the first two first.
How long were you in the role before?
I had, I think, a couple of months only.
Oh, wow.
And I got to know that I'm expecting my first child. And for me, it was a double first timer, right?
Yeah.
And it was stressful initially. I was like, oh no. Then it was like, oh wow. So there was a few reactions until I stabilized my reactions. So it's never going to be easy, because obviously you have to carry the child, deliver the child, mother the child, nurture the child. The journey was difficult.
Yeah.
Also medically, like I had my own concerns with the pregnancy journey. But I think, again, you have to come to terms that what you want in life, at that point, you have to define certain boundaries between your work and your life. And this work-life balance word is very stressful, because the moment you're told you have to balance, I think you're more conscious about it. Yeah. It's like if I tell somebody to walk on the rope and say balance, he'll surely fall. Because now you've told him to balance, right? Yeah. So I think for me, it's called work-life management. Yeah. You have to manage both. Yeah. And management is never easy. That's why we've got great MBA colleges around the world to teach you management, because management is a tough skill. But if you want to pursue family and career, you need to manage. Yeah. That's it.
It's so fascinating you said mother's guilt, because like as a man you feel like I'm going out to provide, I'm doing my duty, but you're also doing the exact same thing.
Exactly.
We just don't get the mother's guilt. I think an interesting point would be to ask you how you approach coming back into the role after the period out after giving birth. Like a lot of women might be out here listening right now and going through that same period. Is there any lessons you could share about those first few weeks back?
I think the first lesson for me was, again, not to be too harsh to myself. Self-love, self-care is important, because as I mentioned, the woman's body goes through a lot of changes. Also psychologically, your life changes for good eventually, but that period is not easy. So I think you do need to take that time to accept it and to look after yourself, whether it's taking the rest time or eating well or meeting your friends. That gives you that social access to forget about the same routine and get on with life. I think the second thing I would say is don't try to do everything. You cannot, right? Because eventually, if you put your feet into multiple boats, you'll probably be in the river. You need to know where you are, you're 100% there. Initially, of course, when I came back to work, I was like, oh, the nanny cam, and is my son sleeping? Is he breathing? Did he have his milk? And then I had to, again, remind myself to let it go. Because if I do that, then I can't do my job. If I can't do my job, then why am I leaving my son? So it's a vicious circle. Either you go to work or you don't go to work. And if you go to work, then you have to sort of have your focus there. And when you're at home, you need to have your focus there. Because you can't do both at the same time. As much as we women are amazing with multitasking, we're also human beings. So there's only that much one can do. So I think the art of letting it go is not going to happen one day. It's going to be subtle, but let it happen. The art of letting it go, letting things, delegation is a good responsibility, prioritizing work. I think one of the things I did as a new mother, as a new parent, was like I calendar my meetings. I started calendarizing my son's vaccination, or if there's something I need to address to, even till date, if he's got an open day at school with his teacher, it's part of my official diary. So nobody touches it. It is my commitment. Like it's my commitment to attend to a work requirement. It is my commitment to turn up to his school and meet his teacher and ask her how is he doing. So I think this is how you sort of manage, again, the management part comes in, and you start managing your work priorities with your personal priorities. Because eventually it's not about a couple of hours you stepped out to address to a doctor, or you worked late or came early. It's about the bigger scheme of things. The bigger scheme of things is the family needs to run well and the work needs to do well. So minor details can be adjusted.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I really, really appreciate it. We've not spoken about the property we're in yet, which is usually a sign of a really great conversation. But we are at a beautiful property, Sheraton Mall of Emirates. Can you give people listening just a little overview of the property, rooms, how many rooms, facilities, where we are in Dubai, etc.?
Sure. So Sheraton Mall of the Emirates is a destination hotel. It's a crossroads of an iconic destination of Mall of Emirates, right in the center, in the heart of Dubai, where we are 15 minutes to Burj Khalifa and 15 minutes to Marina. So we're right in the center and right across Burj Al Arab, right? So I think it's got a very, very unique and very iconic destination location. We have 481 rooms. We're actually the largest Sheraton in the region, and we have multifaceted operations, from multiple restaurants to catering, outside catering. We at Sheraton also go out and do catering facilities into people's offices and homes. So we take our brand to your house. And then, of course, spa. I think it's a full-blown operation. It's a massive machinery that's running. It's a well-oiled machinery. But I think what makes it Sheraton Mall of the Emirates is the team. I think one of the things that really stands out for Sheraton, particularly Sheraton Mall of Emirates, is the word that we hear from our guests very often, which is homely. They always say Sheraton is my second home. I feel I'm at home. It's a homely hotel. It's because people are genuine. There are genuine smiles, genuine welcome. We do go the extra mile. I think that's ingrained in hoteliers. But we know our guests very well, and we try to make sure that we become part of their lives. Yeah. So, and obviously, Mall of Emirates in itself does not need much introduction, but Mall of Emirates is the destination mall of Dubai, with facilities such as Ski Dubai and multiple restaurants and retail outlets, from luxury to premium, you name it, and the brand is in the Mall of the Emirates. Yeah. And I think that's a very, very big amenity to the hotel, because our guests have the comfort of walking into the mall. We're in the mall, right? We don't have to walk to the mall. You're inside the mall, you step out in the mall, whether you have to watch a movie, go for snow skiing in Dubai, which is quite unique, or do shopping. You can do everything without leaving the building, right? And the Dubai lifestyle enables you to do hands-free shopping. So you shop, you drop the bags at the counter in the mall, and they deliver it to the hotel. So it's quite convenient, it's quite well located, and I think our team is always there to welcome our guests.
More of a personal question that I'm interested in. When it gets very hot in Dubai in the summer months, the mall becomes nearly an even bigger part of people's lives. A lot of people get their daily steps in the malls. Do you see a pickup in occupancy more than other hotels in the summer, because you've got direct access to so much stuff inside?
We do. We do very well in summers. Okay. I think for us, summers is not a lean period at all. And again, it's interesting to see that we get people from different parts of the world who come in and stay with us, right? But definitely Mall of Emirates plays a very, very, very important role. And it is a mall that people love to, even as a local resident of Dubai, this is my favorite mall. And I live in downtown, right? But still, this is my favorite mall because I find all the brands under the same roof, and it's a very easy mall to navigate myself into.
Unlike the other one. We talked a little bit about the team, and you said that the property is very welcoming and homely. There was an award last year, the Customer Happiness Awards. Can you talk through us a little bit about that? Because you said that hospitality is about welcoming people, but you go to so many hotels where you don't feel that at all. So it's actually lovely to hear and see that you've been recognized for it.
I think that was a very big achievement for us, because not only because it was obviously a gold award that Sheraton won, but because the award was across different industries. So it wasn't a hospitality award. It was an award where people from telecommunications to government entities to retail, everybody participated, and everybody was obviously looking at customer happiness, not guest happiness. So every business has customers, and winning an award amongst different sectors, I think even was cherry on the cake for us. It was quite a proud moment for the entire team, because I think the team delivers exceptional service and experience to our guests. And the kind of love letters I get from our guests and emails I get, we actually have a wall in our back of the house where we paste those love letters. Because when I joined this hotel initially, after a couple of months, I started receiving these letters, and I was like, why don't we just paste them on the wall for the world to see? There was literally like with name, hearts, stars, like people put their emotions on a piece of paper. How many people use piece of paper these days? For a guest to actually write a letter, a handwritten letter, I think speaks miles for me. Because we don't have the time to do that. I wouldn't do that in many places I stay, to pick up a pen and paper and write a letter to the general manager of the hotel. So I think it really speaks how much they feel welcomed, they feel home, and how much the team goes above and beyond to make sure their stay is memorable. And actually, our team is part of their lives. Even when they're traveling to different parts of the world, I've had instances, I've spoken to my associates, and they've showed me WhatsApp messages between them and the guest saying, hey, we are in Morocco, here's the photo, what do you think we should go? We can't wait to come back to Dubai. It's amazing. It's literally like family. And I think that's the genuinity that gets people back. And they feel like it doesn't matter if the hotel is cheaper than the others or expensive than the others. I feel welcome and I feel home. Yeah. I think that's what we pride ourselves for.
No, I absolutely love that. I was going to say that some people don't even send a thank you WhatsApp message, let alone write a letter. So
absolutely.
You are part of a massive group, the biggest in the world, I think, today still. Yeah. There were probably pros and cons with that. It means you're part of a big family, lots of support systems, but also how do you craft Sheraton Mall of Emirates as its own brand, right? Because the team here, well, I'm sure they're passionate about the bigger mothership. Their real passion is the property they walk into every day. So how do you see the pros and cons of that?
I think Sheraton is a brand. One of the things that the brand is known for is where the world comes together. So that's the tagline of Sheraton. And I think we believe in brand programming this pillar pretty strongly, because we create so we call something called the Sheraton Gatherings. We do a lot of these gatherings to collect our guests for different collaborations we do with brands, also to bring the retail experience to life, because we're a mall hotel at the end of the day. So we get different brands for our guests to experience, gathering, experiential, and I think these moments give them something above and beyond than just the heads on the bed story. Yeah. I've got a room, I paid for a room, end of story. When you activate your brand, and every brand, Sheraton across the world will have the same brand standard, but it comes to the hotel how they activate those brand standards. So I think for us, we are very passionate about activating those pillars, and we take it very seriously. And that's why when we started doing the Sheraton gatherings, we've got things such as coffee tasting making experiences, to wine pairings, to chocolate making. Like, we do these kind of things for our guests to really enjoy hospitality and things that comes with hospitality, right? And I think eventually a hotel is always known for the people who work in that hotel. Yeah. Because again, yes, we're part of Marriott and we're part of a big group, and we get our loyal guests, Marriott Bonvoy guests, but of course there's a few Marriott hotels to choose from. But I guess when our loyal guests come back to Sheraton, they come back to our associates, because they want to come back and see them and feel at home.
Yeah. No, listen, it's what I think is it funny? Sane, part of Marriott in the region, her daughter was at a hotel school, and Marriott were going to do their, all the groups go to the hotel schools to do their recruitment, and the younger generation are saying, oh, Marriott Bonvoy are coming to the school, because it's become so powerful, right, as a point system. Absolutely. But no, it's an absolute monster, and I think you're doing an incredible job with it. We talked a lot of things. I'd like to move into a different part of leadership, which is we talked about being a female leader. You also can be a mentor. You can be someone that people look up to. What is your view on mentorship? Did you have it when you were coming up through the ranks, and how do you deliver it back? at the moment?
I'm actually officially mentoring a female leader in Saudi. So Marriott has a program called FLI, Female Leadership Initiative, and they've also got a program in Saudi called Tassin, where they're developing female leadership to come up and become general managers. So I have a mentee in Riyadh, and she's a lovely, lovely girl, and she was assigned to me as my mentee, and we started a relationship of mentor-mentee. And then she came down to spend a week with me to shadow me as well, because obviously she aspires to be a general manager.
And can I ask, at what stage of their career do they start being mentored?
So she was a front office manager.
Okay.
So obviously not an ex-com, maybe an HOD or an assistant HOD level. And then she obviously wants to become an ex-com and then general manager. So she came down and she said, we connected on a couple of calls, of course, to get to know each other. And then she said, I'd like to come and shadow you. I want to spend a week in the life of a general manager. And I'm like, wow, that's real hand experience. So she came down, she spent some time with me, attended meetings with me. She was like a shadow. So she was with me from morning to evening. I think mentorship is a two-way learning experience. She learned something from me and I learned something from her as well. And I think the biggest advantage of a mentorship program is that person necessarily may not be your direct manager, which means you can be a bit more candid and a bit more open about how you feel, what your challenges are. And that person is going to give you a different perspective, because they're just not going to talk to you about your KPIs and what you have to deliver. Right? Because obviously they're not coming from your direct reporting or the same department. But I think it's a very, very powerful thing to have. And when you have mentorship programs, it definitely gives you and allows you the opportunity to give yourself exposure, ask yourself questions, and see another leadership style, right? I mean, maybe she's worked with other general managers and HODs, and they have a different style. When she became my mentee, I have a different personality and a style. So the more the merrier, right? So I think we're already on that journey of mentorship. I think now Marriott has definitely taken these great initiatives to do this and structure it better. Yeah. I think when I was growing up the food chain, there wasn't a program as such that I need to be assigned to a mentor. But yeah, I think for me, some of my bosses were natural mentors. So they gave me feedback, good and bad both. And that really helped me shape my career. I think I really learned the hunger that she had of learning, because once you get to the top, you somehow get comfortable that I know everything. And I think that's not nice, and I would acknowledge it, right? Because obviously you are the head of the organization, everybody comes to you for approvals and suggestion and guidance. So you don't have that same passion and hunger to say, what can I learn? What can I do? What can I achieve, right? But with her, I saw that hunger, that drive. She wouldn't rest for anything. And that was a very good refresher for me. When she left, I think I made an effort to remember and remind myself about that hunger and eagerness, right? So that's why when somebody is trying to become you, is definitely more hungry, because they still haven't reached where they have to reach. Whereas you have reached and now you're in a position to guide others. Yeah. But one thing that should never go away, which was my lesson as a mentor, is the hunger, the drive, the passion. No matter what is your title and how much you've grown up the food chain, you should be equally hungry for knowledge, for learnings, for mistakes, for exposure. So I think this was my learning, at least from my mentee.
Amazing. Let's finish up with the property again. I keep thinking, it's the start of 2024, but the weeks are flying by. What is the year in store? Is there any big projects you're doing at the moment? What are you excited for this year? What's the team excited for?
So we've been on a constant transformation for Sheraton, and this is going to be the newest contemporary classy hotel for Dubai. And we have started our journey with food and beverage, with opening 2 new restaurants, one beautiful Portuguese Japanese on the rooftop called Oanjo, which got the Best Romantic Spot Restaurant Award in the first couple of weeks we opened it. And then we've got a sports bar, Spartan. So these two were the first two to add to the kitty. Then obviously we went on the journey of renovating the entire rooms, and even the one that we're sitting in actually. This is, I love the new design. They look fresh, they're very contemporary and modern. Now we're embarking on the journey of obviously experiencing our arrival experience differently with brand new lobbies and meeting spaces. So this year we will be completely brand new from every corner of Sheraton, and obviously we've upscaled and enhanced the whole product for our guests to experience, while our service remains as warm and genuine as we always are. But now the product is even more enhanced, and our guests can use some latest facilities and experience this beautiful hotel with the newer design compared to the earlier one. So I think I'm very excited to finish this transformation this year, and then obviously can't wait to hear the feedback of our guests and see how they like the hotel.
Amazing. I'd like to ask one more question, which is, how do you manage the guest expectations when a renovation is going on? Because for maybe a first-time manager listening who's got a renovation coming up that's not closing the rest of the hotel, there might be a bit of nerves. How do you manage this?
I think, so you can never anticipate all the risk involved with renovation. I think we've already finished our rooms renovation. This is the last month for us. Okay. We're done with our rooms renovation. So we've come a long way to renovate 500 rooms, which itself was quite a journey. So obviously you do anticipate and say, okay, this can go wrong, this could be a complaint, this is how we would mitigate it. But when you get into the renovation, I think you come up with new challenges and new roadblocks and new issues. You touch one wall, something else pops out of the other wall. Nobody thought disconnected. But I think the only recipe for us was to be as agile as possible, right? Because you can't plan for everything. But responding quickly, showing agility, and taking ownership is what a guest is looking for. Yeah. And I think even besides renovation last year, we closed at a very impressive guest experience score as a hotel. And that, I think, again, goes back to the associates and the staff service that they gave. Our staff service was always one of the highest to look at across Marriott, right? So I think eventually we learned our lessons along the journey, but not all of them, of course. But yes, I think it's never going to be easy because yes, it is disturbing. The guest can have his outlook on it to say, listen, I wanted to sleep, they're making noise. But I guess our guests, maybe we were just really, really lucky. Our guests understood as well. They were just happy that we take accountability, we find a solution, and it works.
Yeah. Amazing. Listen, I've learned so much and I want to thank you for your time. And thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.